New Gallifrey is in a state of crisis after the outrage that occurred at today's High Council. As had been planned, the matter of the secession of the New Gallifrey chapter of House Prydonian was on the agenda. Despite an attempt by the Lord Chancellor Ulon Sputnik to argue for a third way, a vote was finally taken to determine whether the House should be exiled or executed. The vote was close, but finally declared in favour of exile. The Lord President then declared that, in addition to exile, the Prydonians would be deprived of the dematerialization circuits of their TT capsules, thus rendering the capsules incapable of flight. At this point, one of the Prydonian ordinals, Lord Miraflex, pulled a weapon and shot the Chancellor, then made his escape, along with all the senior members of the Prydonian chapter who were present. It is believed that he was, in fact, aiming at the Lord President, but the Chancellor deliberately stepped in the way. The Chancellor immediately began to regenerate and was taken to the Lord President's TT capsule to complete this process. Before his departure, the Lord President issued a statement.
I stand here somewhat stunned. It should have been a day of celebration. We finally put to rest some of the corruption within the Prydonian house that's plagued our society for so many eons, and the children of Gallifrey gained a voice for the first time in the High Council chamber. Fortunately, Lord Abbot of House Prydonians struck down one of our most beloved leaders, Chancellor Ulin. He seems to have regenerated successfully. Only time will tell. Lord Abbot and Lady Calmer will be tracked down and brought to justice, no matter what it takes. I will utilize every power of my office, all of the technology of this planet, and my birth heritage to accomplish that goal. Now, Castellan Solis and I have a lot to do, so if you will excuse me, please. Good night.
Reaction to this event was immediate, with many of those present expressing outrage and calling for punishment of those responsible.
Well, what I witnessed today was an act of war. I warned them this would happen. My initial transmission spoke of such dissent among the people. And I cannot stress enough the amount of dissidence there is. It just, mind boggles. I cannot believe that such an act has been committed. Time and time again, this has been a problem. This meeting should never have taken place. It should have been more about dealing with them, and now we do have to deal with them. In my initial transmission, I spoke of how we Germanians built this city, and likewise, we will bring it down even at the cost of, getting to the root of this problem. Mercy is illogical at this point. Where there is one dissenting, there is another. And we are in consensus that such problems need to be eradicated. This cannot be allowed to continue. That is our view. And that is why I voted for execution. Now, we are left in a position to hunt these people down and exterminate. That is the only option. This is the view of the House, but this is a clear warning, and it came to pass. We were ignored, and it has come to pass, and now we're left in a position that now we must deal with it. And if they will not deal with it, we will. We are the builders of this empire. We can bring it down. They want a war. We will finish it.
The events of today's meeting, the meeting itself at the beginning, was a true show of democracy and the leadership of course, of the Lord President Sen. The incident that happened at the end just goes to show why House Cerulean voted for execution. And I'd like to point out we were not the only house to vote for this. The outright horrendous shooting of Lord Chancellor Oolon just shows what kind of people are actually in the now exiled, and I repeat, they are now exiled, New Gallifrey House Prydon. As for the state of health of our beloved Chancellor, Mr. Oolon, from what I'm led to believe, his regeneration did actually happen, and he was bundled quickly into Lord President Sen's TARDIS. However, I haven't heard any reports as to the Lord Chancellor's actual current state of health. But this shows why House Cerulean did vote for execution.
Others have argued for a more nuanced response, with the possibility of amnesty for those not directly involved in the outrage.
Well, to be perfectly honest, I was completely shocked. I mean, I voted in the interests of House Dramian, and after the little, well, conversation that Sen had with the rest of the High Council, with what would happen to a TTC after a Time Lord's death, well, I voted to allow the Pygonians into exile. It seemed the more humane choice. But once the Pygonians attempted to assassinate the president, and my dear friend the Lord Chancellor took the bullet for the Lord President and caused him to regenerate, it honestly feels very... I am saddened over the Lord... I am proud over the Lord Chancellor's sacrifice. But I honestly feel that this may lead to a civil war inside of the Pridronians. Because, in my opinion, the ones who attempted the assassination on the president should be punished. But the rest of the House should not be punished for something that they did not do, and maybe they should be granted amnesty.
Well, I am very, very disappointed in New Gallifrey Prodonians' behavior. They wanted to break away. They didn't want to be a part of us anymore. They could have been executed for the high treason they chosen. They were granted exile as they wanted to leave, and going against the Lord President, they feel that they are the descendants of Rassilon and the only Prodonians that have say and knowledge in history. When they were given the opportunity to leave without violence, they chose violence. So therefore, this option of exile may not last long. They may be brought to execution. One person was pulled the trigger, and Lord Abbott's going to have to be brought to justice. However, Lord Karma, she mentioned a war at the end of her statement before she left. So I think when she was insinuating there was going to be danger, she knew what was going to happen next. So in my opinion, that whole New Gallifreyan chapter on the few that were a part of that are going to have to be brought to justice. It's hard to say. Some people are going to have to choose sides and decide if they're going to stay with what we now call the Renegades, or if they're going to come forward and be given the opportunity to give us any knowledge of their whereabouts, and they may be pardoned from any further prosecution. It will be left up to the Lord President finally and the other vote on the other chapter houses, but I feel that would be a good avenue to take to be able to bring out the ones that are responsible for this.
Stay tuned to NGPR, your source for news of New Gallifrey, where shortly we hope to bring you further reactions to this outrage and an interview with the newly regenerated Chancellor.